बुद्धिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम तत्सत्. So in the fifth sutra of the Tritiya Anumesha, we were discussing about different methods of meditation. Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Pruthaktwani. So these we have already discussed. Yogina Bhavaniyani iti Shesaha. So these are the techniques that we will do. And Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Pruthaktva, we have already done it also in the 20th Sutra of the Sambhopaya in the first chapter. Now those things happen because of the high threshold of the sadhaka who has embarked on the sadhana for a long time, and he has perfected many techniques. That is why towards the end of the sutra there was a clarification that what a person achieves is described in the sutra number 20th of the Sambhopaya is not, even though it sounds similar here, these are essentially techniques for silencing the mind. Silencing in the mind and attaining equal vision and perfect equanimity within as a result of vichara are two different things. Here you're dealing with the symptomatic aspects of your consciousness. But that is the beginning point. That is important to reach there. Then other things will follow. And therefore, he mentioned that these basic things that you have to attain. Okay. Now, in the verse number 6, he's talking about a few benefits the sadhaka will attain, a few benefits that will happen to the sadhaka as a result of these sadhanas. And what are the sadhanas he is mentioning? However, there is again a clarification in the sutra itself that these siddhis that we'll find, there are two views we'll find here, that these perfections which we'll find during the sadhana kala of this particular preliminary stage. What is that preliminary stage? Preliminary stage is the Anubopaya. So these are the perfections that you will have. There are two expert views on it. One expert view is that these preliminary siddhis or perfections that a sadhaka attains are not completely fruitless if pursued to their logical conclusion. They would elevate you to the ultimate level of peace. Then the other view is that no, these siddhis are kind of distractions. Instead of accelerating your spiritual ascension to the point of perfect equanimity and peace and self-realization, they may actually slow them down. If you look at these two apparently contradictory views, you will realize that there is no real contradiction. How? Now there's a boy who has to learn grammar to be able to make an entry into Sanskrit education. Now, if he becomes too obsessed with Sanskrit grammar, then he'll become a grammarian. He will not be an expert in Vedanta or Sankhya or any philosophical text, which in order to study, he started learning grammar. So the grammar becomes an end in itself for him. He would not reach to the ultimate destination of Shastra Jnana. He will have Vyakarana Shastra Jnana, but the Visayavastu, which he wanted to explore, he may not be able to reach there. Similarly, when we do pranayama, asana, pranayama, dhyana, dharana, samadhi, when we graduate through these stages, even the Yoga Sutra says There will be a status called Dharma Megha Samadhi, where willing or unwilling, you are asking or you're not asking, you are bestowed upon with a lot of siddhis, lot of positive feelings. You don't have to bargain for it with God. A lot of good things happen to these people because of their sadhanas. Do they become one antaraya? Yes, Yoga Sutras warn you that you would be able to have a certain siddhi, such as you may be here and you may still be physically somewhere else at that same time. So you'll have multiple appearances. You'll be able to clone yourself. You're one person, but you're appearing at different places. Very fascinating siddhi. Similarly, you'd be able to feel or see a reality or a phenomenon which you are not close to. You are sitting here, but you can figure out what is happening at a long distance from you on the other side of the wall. Similarly, you can hear the sounds which are otherwise not available to the naked ears. All the siddhis are there. There is a narration of the siddhis, but there's a warning that they'll become obstructions if you start relishing them. Similarly, here the siddhis, there's a clarification. Normally, the siddhis are definitely a product of your sadhana. However, you should not confuse them as Atmajnana. These are not accruing to you, they are not happening to you because you have Param Shiva Jnana or you have Parama Shivatva Prapti. That will take a while. You may get siddhis earlier, but you have to walk a longer distance to be there. Longer distance is not in physical terms, but longer distance in terms of how you purify your consciousness and how more and more the technical details you are discussing. Therefore, the Sutrakara from the very beginning makes a bold statement which may at one point be exciting, and at the same time this will warn you that this is not something that you would like to have. You would like to go past them. Then what is the point of the siddhi? So Varadaraja, the person who is having a different kind of an interpretation, he says, no, you shouldn't hate these siddhis. Pursued to their logical conclusion, you will have Paramatattva Samavesha. You will ultimately, even though that could be a little controversial, because Atmajnana is Nitya, it's not a product. How can you get there through sadhana? But Varadaraja will say, Paramparaya, it's like peeling the onions. The more and more you peel them off, another. So you go beyond all those appearances, and finally that Purna Tattva appears in front of you. It reveals itself to you. He will talk like that. So, to my mind, what I would say is that these siddhis are neither good and bad. It has everything to do with what is our mental attitude to these endowments. God, the Supreme Lord, bestows upon us a few powers, what we want to do with them. If we still have our ahankara in place, we want to possess them, we want to apply them, get attention and power, then they become obstacles. If we see, okay, God, thank you, but please give me the next levels of self realization where I can directly feel you, then you are on the right path. So, to my mind, the siddhas are not bad because they give you a confirmation that your father is successful. So, there is a there is a confirmation that your sadhana is on track. Therefore, you need not worry. You should pursue them to their logical conclusion. So, what is the sixth sutra that we have done the five sutras so far? The sixth sutra is like this: Moha Varnat Siddhihi. Moha Varnat. See, he's making it very clear. Moha, avaranats. That veil of Maya, the veil of delusion, that is what brings you all these siddhis, supernormal powers. Immediately, it makes it very clear that you are considering these as your siddhis or realizations or achievements because of the veil of Maya still powerfully influencing your consciousness. That is why you are relishing the achievement of these intermediate level perfections. So these perfections do not have anything to do with Paramatatva Jnana. That is still away from you. And then, how am I getting all this? See, in a very beautiful way, if you meditate on it, only Paramatatva Shiva is real. All that we see is a game of his Leela with the Maya Sakti. With his Maya Sakti has unraveled this whole samsara. So none of these can be perfect. None of these can be nitya. None of this can give us ultimate happiness. Whatever we consider to be a source of happiness, other than that Paramashiva Jnana, other than that Atma Jnana, can only be logically explained in the light of the influence of delusional power of Maya Shakti of Paramashiva. Not yet there kind of a situation. One story comes to my mind, when the great, this Vairagya Sataka, he wrote this, Bhartrihari wrote this great Vairagya Sataka. And when he was in a cremation ground, he was doing his acute sadhana. And Ma Parvati was goading Lord Shiva, why are you torturing my child? He's doing so much of sadhana. Why don't you give him siddhi? And Lord Shiva says, okay, let's find out. You are always a very emotional person. Like all mothers, you're very emotional. You are trying to convince me that he deserves my attention. Let's find out. Let's go. So when they are in disguise, as an old couple. And what this poor fellow was doing is that he had collected some wheat flour and he had made a dough, and with his own hand he had made 2 pieces of cakes of 4, and he was baking those cakes that he has made with the help of his hand in that cremation fire, holding this. They have this iron chimta, so with that he's holding, and there he's trying to bake them. These 2 people land up, Lord Shiva and Parvati, in the disguise as an old man and an old woman. And they said, Beta boy, we are very hungry. Do you have anything to share with us? So he promptly takes out all these 4 chapatis that he has made, these rotis, and gives them all 4. He's saying, okay, mother, you have, and give these 2 to the old man. Both of you have 2 each. Then Lord Shiva, who was trying to tell Parvati that he is not yet there, he says, why don't you do one thing, boy? Why don't you, we are old. We are happy to have 1 each. Why don't you have 2 and give us 2? We'll have 1 each. He laughed and he said, do you know who am I? And Lord Shiva, in disguise of an old person, says, of course we don't, my son. And please introduce yourself to us. He says, I am a king. I'm doing sadhana here. You are having pity on me that I cannot live without food. I'm a king by birth. I'm a Kshatriya. I can survive hunger for days. We go on these conquests and fights and battles and wars. We are not too concerned about the body. We have great control over the body. And I absolutely am never perturbed by pangs of hunger. That's behind me. Firstly, I'm a king, and now I'm a sannyasi. I have a double advantage. So, what are you thinking? Have all the 4 rotis. I got no problem. And Lord Shiva told him, thank you, but we are not hungry. So, you have all 4, and they leave that place. Then Lord Shiva looks at Parvati and asks, do you still argue that I have to give him all the knowledge? He still has ahankara, an ego, as a king. He has become a monk, he's suffering, he's doing sadhana, but this is all external sadhana. He has not yet transformed himself within. He still has a very powerful ego. What can I do to him? That is exactly he's mentioning that our interest, our curiosity about the powers. Anybody who comes to the spiritual path, the only thing which fascinates them is, oh Guruji, what are the powers he has? Can he do this? Can he do that? What is this? Moha varanat siddhihi. It's because of the veil of ignorance that either as a devotee you are interested in the occult powers of the Guru or the Guru himself, because he is under the veil of ignorance that he values this sort of wealth, which is very anitya, it's very ephemeral. It's not far superior to the powers you have in samsara. What magical powers you will have doing sadhana? Look at Elon Musk. He can buy any company, destroy any company. He's super rich. He's very close to having all the magical powers that you read in the books. But there are a lot of rich people. There are a lot of great athletes, a lot of brilliant people who can manifest and achieve things which might look like magic to others. Why do you have to do all this sadhana? Are they having Paramatatva Jnana? No. Because you have the siddhis, why should you claim you have Paramatatva Jnana? These are all because of the game of ignorance, the game of Maya, the Leela, that somebody appears to have achieved a few occult powers. Now, the explanations. Mohyati iti moho Maya. What is this moha? He's saying moha avarana. So he's saying moha iti moha because it deludes you. That's why it's called moha. Maya tat krita avaranat. Maya krita avarana. Moha avaranat. So moha is nothing other than Maya. And because of this veil of these delusional power called Maya, prokta dharanadi krama samasaditata tat tat tattva bhoga rupa siddhar bhavati. So you have this dharana, dhyana, samadhyana, dharana, samadhi. You are ascending, and at each of these levels, you have some new realizations. And these new realizations of subtle powers that you're cultivating are just part of this whole game of Maya. Because of this veil of Maya, you appear to have some siddhis. So, you know what? Ultimately, this sutra is communicating. That is the central theme. The ignorant, the so-called wise. The so-called ignorant, the so-called wise. The so-called poor, the so-called rich. The so-called weak, so-called powerful. These differences and these intermediate distinctions between different stations of life is a result of what? These distinctions are a result of the veil of ignorance, because the veil of ignorance is what prevents us from seeing the ultimate truth of Paramashiva Tattva, where there is no rich, no poor, no siddhi, no asiddhi. Therefore, whatever we presume is real that we need to achieve, whether it is wealth or house or marriage or relationship or anything, these are essentially in tune with, in line with the game of Maya. You are not being able to violate the game of Maya. Within that game of Maya, you can master these intermediate perfections, privileges, and you might show off, and you may appear to be more powerful, you can have more followers. All these are possible, but genuinely you are not yet there. You are not having Atmakjnana. Tatkrita avaranat, prokta dharanadi. Prokta dharanadi means dhyana, dharana, samadhi, adi. All this krama samasadita tat tat tattva bhogurupa siddhar bhavati. So, depending on the intensity of a sadhana, wherever you are, whatever you're achieving, you will get a little benefit out of it. Not to paratattva prakashaha, but these sadhanas and these siddhis will not give you enough wealth to encash self-realization. You cannot buy God with your vibhutis and siddhis that you are having, because they are coming from Him only. To dissuade you from asking for more, you remember the dialogue between Yama and Nachiketa in Kathopanishad. He offered him, I can fulfill all your desires. You take these beautiful damsels, these apsaras, and these chariots, and all these whole big, beautiful band parties, nritya, gana, everything. Go have fun. Have an eternal holiday. I'll fulfill any wish you want to have. Nachiketa says, when I'm not permanent, how can I have permanent happiness? Not interested. Brahmaji is not permanent. No one is permanent here. What are you trying to offer me? I'm not such a fool. I have some exposure to sastras. You tell me, is there an Atma other than this body which is Nitya? If so, how can I have realization of that Atma Tattva? Because he was very smart. And the ones who are not smart will be after the siddhis. That is what he's saying. Moha avranat siddhi. Na to paratattva prakasa yadyuktam Srimat Lakshmi Kaularnabe. You have this famous Kularnava Tantra, but he's adding one adjective here, Srimat Lakshmi. Srimat Lakshmi Kularnava Tantra. So in that text, okay. So Swayambhu Bhagavan Devo Janma Sanskara Varjitah Nirvikalpam Param Dhama Anadi Nidhanam Shivam Pratyaksham Sarvatantunam Nasasa Nasa Pasyati Mohitaha Swayambhu Bhagavan Devo. The creator creates this whole universe. He doesn't have a creator. He just manifests himself. Lord Shiva, when he is having Shakti, the power, he can create. Without Shakti, no, there is nothing. That is that Paratattva. Only when he has Shakti, he can create. Parama Shiva becomes self-aware, and that is that Vimarsha Shakti, then he can start creating. Therefore, he's saying, Mohiyati. So, Swayambhur Bhagavan Devo Janma Sanskara Varjitaha. He was never born, and he was never. You have these Sodasa Sanskara, Sola Sanskaras, or some people say 42 Sanskaras. Like, when the child is there, you have a particular thing. They do a baby shower, but there are Sanskaras for everything. And then there is a baby is born. So, you have different rituals which are done. Purification of the consciousness happens. Janma sanskara varjitaha. He was having no birth, he has no karma. There is no need for any sanskara. Sanskarya, vikarya, apya, all these do not apply to Atma. Sanskara, like there is something you want to clean it. Vikarya, there is one shape, you will give another shape. Apya, you don't have it, you want to have it. All these are different kinds of karmas. These are anitya. These are not permanent. Therefore, he is explaining it. Nirvikalpam param dhama anadi nidhanam shivam. Nirvikalpam. There is no vikalpa. He is vikalpa rahita. There is no two over there. There is only one pure consciousness, unending, infinite, all pervading. Parang dhama. It's beyond names and forms. That is the state we are talking about. Anadi Nidhanam. He has no Adi, no Nidhanam. He has no Adi, no Anta, no beginning, no end. Anadi Nidhanam Shivam. Pratyaksham Sarvajantunam Nasa Pashyati Mohitaha. Sarvajantunam Pratyaksham Nasa Pashyati Mohitaha. This particular thing, this Paramashiva is watching everything. The Paramashiva is ever present everywhere. However, the one who is blindfolded with the power of Maya, he doesn't see this. Who is he? Jiva. And who is this Jiva? Jiva is Shiva ever. But when he has deluded himself, he has got this Pasubhava, he has abandoned his Shiva Bhava. And why Lord Shiva becomes Jiva? Why does he assume this Pasubhava and then becomes Pasupati? What is this game? We have discussed that. So Atma Gopana Krida. He hides himself of his own divine will. He's creating this game. and then asking us to unravel the mystery of our own existence to regain our pure consciousness, which is a state of non dual identity with the Paramashiva, whatever in Vedanta language is called Brahmakara Vritti. When you see that non dual reality of Lord Shiva, you don't exist. What exists is that Paramashiva Tattva of which you are no different. Until we realize it, we are obviously animals. We are rich men, poor men, we are men, women, children, this, that, we have names and forms and littleness surrounding our consciousness. That littleness is what defines our humanness. When we abandon that littleness, our the adjectives which surround us, follow us, engulf us are going to fall like dry leaves. What remains is the pure consciousness. Therefore, he is saying, Pratyaksham sarvajantunam nacha pasyati mohitaha. Okay, so that happens. But what about a person who has cultivated transcendence of this moha, of this delusion? Is he any better? Then he's explaining. Bigalita moho shatu. The person who has transcended moha, that means maya. What does that mean? He's on the path of self realization. Remember this, that in the sixth sutra, he's kind of hinting at that we can prepare ourselves to guide ourselves towards the sadhana in the saktopaya. So he says that in the arnavopaya, you do the sadhanas, you will get a few siddhis. This is no real progress, but he is telling you where to go. In the sutra, these are not mentioned. In the commentary, these are mentioned by Kshemaraja, Siva Sutra Vimarshani. He is already keeping in mind the higher levels of consciousness which can be attained through Saktopaya and Sambhavapaya. So he gives us, it's like you're struggling with your coursework at the undergrad or master's levels, and the professor comes and gives you a lecture saying that these exams are very intermediate level hurdles. When you do research, your game is going to be different. You don't have to read so many papers. Yes, Sanjeevani, please. Yeah, you can ask your question either to SMS or you can ask also. You have to unmute yourself and then you can ask your question. I'm not hearing your question. Or okay, maybe by mistake you touched it. So he's explaining it. Bigalita mohoshatu, the person who has deserved his moho, his maya, his delusion. Now he's talking about. So you see the beauty of this commentary, Siva Sutra Vimarshani. He takes up the case of the preliminary level of sadhaka who is in the Arnabopaya and says that he will get a few siddhis, but that's because of the veil of ignorance. Good, intermediate level achievements will not elevate your consciousness to the ultimate level of self realization, beyond which there is no further achievement to be requested, sought. You don't have any further achievement to look forward to because you get all that a person can fancy because you have Atmakyana. So, the breaking point between two categories of sadhaka is the one who is still under the veil of Maya, veil of ignorance, and the one who has just broken free from the veil of ignorance. So, he has that vairagya. So because he has that vairagya and viveka, he is sadhana chatushtaya samparnaha, and therefore he can make a quantum jump into a different realm of sadhana. And what that sadhana will be like, the sadharana asana, pranayama, and dhyana, dharana, samadhi, all that will give you for siddhis. That we have already discussed in the previous sutra. Here he is saying that if you are somebody who has transcended the veil of ignorance and then you are doing pranayama, the same sadhanas will have different meaning for you. The difference is like this. There was this beautiful story about Swami Shivananda Saraswati of Rishikesh. So every day he used to go uphill for his daily, oblations. easing his bowels and stuff like that. While coming back, he will carry a few dry wood for fire, because those days it was very cold in Rishikesh during the winter. And then somebody asks, now you have Atma Jnana, you become a guru, but you are going, but you're still carrying a log of dry wood, a bunch of dry wood while you're coming back. So he smiled. He says, then I was bringing them. Now this happens. That is the basic difference. Similarly, there is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also doing Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. He has already realized there is no difference between himself and Lord Krishna. He has already realized the ultimate thing. And yet he is doing this bhajana, is Jnanottara Bhakti. So a lot of Atmagyanis also do Rudri every day. They'll do Chandi Patha. It doesn't mean that they are looking for any siddhis, any powers. They are, by doing these, are only thanking the Supreme Divine, and they want to reiterate, reaffirm their love and their realization and their state in that higher state of being. This is essentially a ritual reaffirmation of that inner faith and realization to the advantage of their followers, because they are already there. So they just play act these kinds of things. Similarly, he's mentioning that you have asana, pranayama, dhyana, dharana, samadhi, a person is doing in a normal course. He will have few siddhis, but if he's somebody who has broken free from the veil of ignorance, what kind of sadhana he will do, he's hinting there. And this particular thing looks like a stage slightly higher than one we are studying in the Anavopaya. So this is the essential. Madhyamam pranamashritya pranapana pathantaram alambya jnana saktim cha tastam seva sanam lavhed. This is the first. You see, in the Lakshmi Kulanava Tantra, the chapter 8, and these are some verses starting from 11 till 18. So he will touch all these verses one by one. Madhyamam pranamashritya pranapana pathantaram. You have prana and apana. You have inhaling and exhaling. You're doing pranayama. Then the third one is udana. That madhyamam, that udana vayu. You want to settle there. Pranamashritya pranapana pathantaram alambya jnana saktim cha. And how is he doing it? It's no more a physical exercise for him. He is trying to stay in the state of awareness of that Paramashiva Tattva. Jnana Saktim, Alambya. So he's saying Alambya Jnana Saktim cha tastam chaivasanam labhed. Then that asana he gets is not a physical posture. It's stability or stabilizing the consciousness in a state of, not to use the word entanglement, a state of constant coherence with, constant alignment with, constant coexistence with that supreme consciousness. You're constantly aware of it. You remember the Khechari Mudra we had discussed in the Saktopaya. Khechari Mudra explained is not about twisting your tongue and getting those droplets which taste sweet. No, it's much beyond that. Khecharatiti Khechari. It is that kind of mudra where you are in that infinite, sky-like, free consciousness that you connect with. That is the real Khechari Mudra. So he has an interpretation of the sadhana. You remember when we were doing that Sankaracharya text, Apuraksha Anubhuti, where Hai Ho is explaining all the asana, the yoga, and other things that you are having. He was having a different kind of interpretation of dhyana, dharana, samadhi, everything relating it to Brahma Jnana. Similarly, is mentioning here, alambya jnana saktim cha tastam seva sanam lavhet. Then you will have that stability in your consciousness. Pranadi stulabhavam tu tyaktva sukshmam athantaram. Sukshmatitam tu paramam spandanam labhyate yataha. Then is the next level he's mentioning. And this is a very, very powerful interpretation if you look at it, if you want to have it, I think I had shared the interpretation given by Lakshman Ju, a great expert on this, traditional teacher and a great scholar, but much more than that, he was a great sadhaka himself and guided scores and scores of brilliant scholars. So what he's trying to say in the translation of it, he's saying that these yogic exercises, then you have one bahya pranayama, which is modulating your breath, how to inhale, how long to hold, bahya kumbhaka, anta kumbhaka, you will do all these practices. So these are very sthula, working in the pranavayu in a very external sense. In a real sense, you're looking at the biological mechanism, you are trying to twist these pranavayus in order to produce a positive mental frame, positive turnaround in the brain, so that you can have greater concentration. Then comes the sukshma one. The sukshma one is not about manipulation of your breath. These things will happen naturally. But the next one is working at the level of consciousness. That is what he's now trying to say. Pranadi stula bhavam tu tyakta sukshmam athantaram. So you'll do this first stula pranayama sadhana. You'll breathe in, hold it. So X seconds you breathe in, 2x seconds you hold, and another x seconds you breathe out. That was a very simple technique of pranayama given by Swami Vivekananda, and the other people do different variations of it. Then you have bahya kumbhaka. So it could be x, 2x, x, then you keep outside. Can you keep 2x? Or maybe you can keep x. So this is how you have a certain timeline and you slowly practice it. And if you do it one go, if you do for a longer period, you will have some muscular pain in the lower belly, because that is where you modulate this whole breathing thing by exercising, using those muscles. So you cannot do everything at one go. You have to do it slowly, otherwise there'll be some kind of imbalance. So therefore, he's saying that you start with this external pranayama, and ultimately pranadi stula bhavam tu tyakta sukshmam athantaram. After this, sukshma titam tu paramam spandanam labhyate naraha. Ultimately what? So when you do this pranayama and then you go to that meditative level of being in asana, which is not a physical posture, but is essentially connecting with that divine consciousness, and then you are doing sukshma pranayama. Nobody has actually explained in great detail. I was looking at the texts. So you can sit in Padmasana or whatever, Sthiram Sukham Asanam. Then you are doing these pranayamas. Okay. Now you have this prana and apana, and then udana, the shusamna, you are trying to concentrate. You unify yourself, you have greater, subtler consciousness. When you do these pranayamas and samadhis, you sit in that erect position, you will find how your consciousness jumps from one level to the other. You have an extremely subtle lightness about it. There is one Buddhist master, a Tibetan yogi, who was giving a talk, and I was listening to it. There is this metaphor in Buddhism that the beautiful peacock is sort of dancing. The moment you want to watch it, the dance stops and the peacock vanishes. The metaphor is like this, that when you go in that meditation and you are on an auto mode, you are in an auto flow mode, the consciousness is rising. At the particular moment, the peacock starts dancing in front of you. In fact, you have a few visions like this. You'll also listen to some beautiful sounds. It's quite possible that you're sitting in the meditation in the middle of the night and there's nothing around. You suddenly might hear temple bells and some beautiful music. You might get some fragrance. These are not around, but your this whole barometer in the system, it starts accessing certain objects of perception which are not physically around you. These are the yogic siddhis, and suddenly you start having that. Some people say that other people may get this fragrance coming out of your body as a result of these sadhanas. where you might listen to some sounds, you might see some pictures. Sometimes, if there are certain traumatic experiences, they will come to the surface, and suddenly you might see, you might get a premonition of what's going to happen to you. You might get frightened. In Kundalini Yoga, also, the teachers always are there to guide you when you are moving towards this Brahmarandra and all, and the guide sits next to you, and you would be telling, "What do you see?" And you will be speaking to him. He'll be guiding you. I see this, I see this, and there is a particular place where you will get frightened. Maybe some tiger comes to attack you. I see a tiger coming. He said, "No, relax. You move forward. Nothing happens. I'll take care of the tiger. You move forward," because these kinds of things will come and they will frighten you. And that's also mentioned, I've seen in a lot of tantra sadhanas, when you are dealing with, when you do the sadhana, you might hear suddenly the sound of wolves who have surrounded you, or hyenas. You hear their noises just outside of your room. There'll be no hyenas, but you will hear those sounds, and you shouldn't get scared. He will mention all that here. So what happens is pranadi stula bhavam tu tyakta sukshma athantaram sukshma titam tu paramam spandanam labhyate yataha. And finally, you get that spandana, you get it. This whole world is that pure vibration which is expanding and manifesting with different names and forms. Uh, it's not easy, but it's possible. When you go deeper and deeper, you may, with God's grace, hit upon that realization where you'll feel the space and its pulsation. It can be very frightening, but you will feel it. You'll feel the pulsation directly yourself. So when you are able to lift yourself and you go to that level, then next level, when you are able to focus yourself in purely in this, in the susamna, then from sukshma vritti you will have sthula vrittis, which is normal pranayama. Then you have sukshma vritti. Then you will go to sukshmatita, beyond the subtle. That is a kind of, in Vedanta, it's like Vruttyottara. You have Brahmakara Vritti, Aham Brahmasmi kind of meditation happens. But there's a moment there is no Aham and then no Asmi, there is only Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Asmi, they will go. Only you have that Brahman. There is no Vritti, that pure consciousness only remains. There is no subject, there is no object, ultimately. And that says you are not there. What is there? That capital, that is there. And that capital is everything. It encompasses everything. You don't need to look for yourself. You start looking for yourself when ahankara is eager to manifest itself. Where am I? The moment that question comes, who is asking that question? Ahankara. The moment the consciousness devolves, comes down, fear comes, anxiety comes, questions come. The rational mind gets activated. So therefore, he's saying this. So the yogi, in the ultimately thing, you have that internal throbbing, a spandana. He experiences it, that vibration. Okay, he reaches there, that ultimate thing. And then what happens? Then he's explaining further in the Siva Sutra Vimarshini. Kshemaraja is writing Punaha Pranayamaha. Then he's saying, once you are there, Sukshma Titam tu Paramam Spandanam Labhyate Yataha. प्राणायामः सनिर्दिष्टो यस्मान्न च्यवते पुनः सवदादिगुणवृत्तिर्या चेतसा हि अनुभूयते. Now this is a very beautiful thing. So pranayamah sanirdishto, that pranayama, which is very definitive, is not about breath. We are all playing the game at the pranamaya kosha. You have annamaya kosha, the physical feet, and then you have the dynamic thing, the pranamaya kosha, and then the manomaya and the vijnanamaya. Now, what happens is that whatever prakriya we are talking about is at the pranamaya kosha level, and at an intermediate level. Beyond that, and the vijnanamaya kosha and the manamaya kosha, you are just looking at them. And these two are also powerfully influenced by the pranamaya kosha. That's why we're doing pranayama. What is the point of doing pranayama if manamaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha don't benefit out of it? They are all interlinked and they are not real end of the day. These are all because of some superimposition. There is an identification at that level of energy constellation. That energy level, go to the next one, it looks different, color changes, vibration changes, its form, its work, everything changes. We call it Manamaya Kosha, we call it Vijnanamaya Kosha, we call it Anandamaya Kosha. Ultimately, it's pure consciousness. Therefore, what he's saying, pranayama sanirdishto yasma na chavate punaha. That is pranayama. It's not about breathing. Once you reach there, you shall not fall again. Na chavate. So means you are achyuta. You are not again falling down. No. You are established there firmly. Na chavate punaha. Savdadi guna vrittihi ya chetasa hi anubhuyate. Savdadi guna vrittihi. So you may hear a few sounds. That's what we were mentioning. Savdadi guna vrittihi ya chetasa ya chetasa hi anubhuyate. With the power of your consciousness, in this level of consciousness itself, you are able to connect with these realities of sound, certain sounds, for example, some auspicious, some inauspicious. You might feel very elated. Somebody might speak to you. You may have, and this is real. There are a lot of powerful yogis, and there are a lot of astral bodies, and they are powerful because they are all there. Are they real? Brahman alone is real. Shiva alone is real. And about all that, they are as real as our life, as all these details that we see. If we are real, they are also real, phenomenal realities. There are physical phenomenal, gross phenomenal, and subtle phenomenal. They are subtle phenomenal realities. And they might speak to you. You might hear the voice of any guru suddenly who appears in your consciousness. You might hear the voice and advice of your dearest deity, whether it's Jesus or it could be Allah or it could be Lord Krishna or Vishnu, whosoever you love. Because that supreme divine takes a name and form through which it communicates with you. Whatever it communicates with you, remember, has a lot to do with our own sanskaras or own aspirations. And it's like, you just have to imagine, then it's so beautiful. It's like, what's going on in me is rebounding back to me. It's my faith, my devotion, my sadhana, which is rebounding and coming back to me as blessings, as grace. And when I'm not having all that and I have negativities, and then when it rebounds and comes back to me, it's curse. All starts and ends here within ourselves. But then why God? Up to us. That is the way it works. Without that foundational truth, nothing else will make sense. And therefore, when you connect with that Supreme Divine, you can guide yourself from the darkness to light, from the inauspicious aspects of life to the most auspicious aspects of life. Therefore, he's saying, Savladi gunavrittiriya chetasa hyanubhuyate. And then, you should not be happy with that. It's quite possible that you are sitting in meditation, long back, when I was maybe 30 years back, I was just learning to these deep meditations. And one fine morning in the midnight, I'm meditating, and I was in an ashram, and I was in somebody's room, and I took his permission to sit in another room and meditate. And then in the morning, I said, "Who was, ringing the temple bell? Did anyone enter your temple in the middle of the night?" And that ashramite laughed at me, and he said, "It happened to you, but don't celebrate and don't tell it to anyone." Because there are certain auspicious moments when we are doing, then you hear these sounds. They are not real. There was no temple, there was no bell, and he said that I was actually in my sense and I hadn't slept when you were doing meditation. It was about 11:30 or 12. So what happens is but then the moment you get happy about it, you start celebrating, they elude. They don't happen anymore. Remember, that's the beauty of it. The moment you become aware of it, you lose it. The moment you allow God to do everything, a lot of things happen. The moment you come into the picture gets spoiled. That's how it is. If you want to spoil the picture, get into it. Get into it what? With ego, with ignorance, with purva sanskaras. Then the next stage of beauty shall not unfold. And that's why that divine surrender, that complete dedication to the Supreme, is such a beautiful advice to have, because that is the only way to let the best happen to us. Sabdadi gunavrittirya chetasa hi anubhuyate tyakva tang paramam dhama pravesat tattva chetasa tat swachetasa tyaktva tang. Then you have the sabdadi gunavrittihi, all that you will have to renounce. Don't get celebratory, don't get attached to them. Then you'll go to the next level. Tam paramam. And where are you going? You're going to the ultimate abode of consciousness. And how do you go there? Praviset, you enter there. How? Tat swachetasa. It's no bahya apeksha, no bahya sadhana. You're not depending on anything. Swachetasa, with the power of your own consciousness, because you are already surrendered to the Paramashiva, the Supreme Lord, and the transformation is already happening within you. They're saying swachetasa. Pratyahara iti prokta bhavapasa nikruntanaha. How can you abandon everything and go in the paramadhava? That is what they say pratyahara. In a normal sense, what is pratyahara? You have this pratyahara. Out of from there you have those real yoga starts, right? Pratyahara is withdrawal of the senses and the mind from external objects of perception. So you have these five jnanendriyas and you have manas. So they connect with Paranchi Khani. They all the time. Vyatrunata. They will always run after outside objects. They cannot see the Atman. So you close your eyes and you turn to yourself. Kaschid dhiraha abrita chakshuhu. Some people who are wise, they close their eyes, means they withdraw their senses from the external reality, which tempts, attracts, distracts, lifts us for a while and dumps us the next moment. We leave everything and return to ourselves. That is what is normally understood as pratyahara. However, here that pratyahara is not returning to yourself, but this is another delusional, egoistic construction of some existence called you. Some existing reality called you is again born out of this game of ego. So he's saying pratyahara is returning to that parama thing, that parama shiva tattva. You reconnect with that supreme self, reconnect with that ultimate thing. So bhavapasa nikrundanaha. If that you are able to do, this will completely chop off whatever vestigial influence of maya still continue to persist in your life. It's called ajnana lesha in Vedanta. It's like in a dream state, we see there's a dinosaur which has entered our bedroom because we are watching Jurassic Park, and therefore we are terribly frightened, and then we are scared. We wake up, we switch on the lamp, there's nothing, you are safe in your bedroom, but then still you are trembling. That is ajnana lesha. The cause of this fear is gone, the fear persists. The cause of attachment to samsara is ignorance, that's gone, and still the attachment persists. The after effect continues to be there, even though the cause behind this effect, that's been removed. Still it's there for a while. It's like a chicken which has been killed, jumps around, even though the head has been removed. You have some sort of a movement of the consciousness which is not there anymore, active. That's what he's saying. Pratyahara iti prokta bhavapasa nikrundanaha. Then dhigunan samatikramya nirdheyam paramam vibhum dhyatva dheyam so samvedyam dhyanam tacha vidurubudha. Now he's talking about dhyana. Pratyahara explained. Dhi gunan samadikramya, all these qualities of these Vijnanamaya Kosha, of these, of your intellect, of your cognitive self, of your human consciousness at that level, then you also transcend them. Nidheyam paramam vibhum. Is Atma dheya? Dheyaschet is upasya. You're doing dhyana. There is duality. I am meditating on Lord Vishnu, on Lord Shiva. Nidheyam, Paramashiva is not dheya. Vicharya, yes, you can do vichara. You cannot meditate on the Paramashiva. Paramashiva has no name and form. How do you meditate on him? What do you focus on? It's not different from you. You don't exist outside of Paramashiva, outside of Brahman. Therefore, he clarifies this is very non-dualistic. Nirdheyam paramam vibhum. It's not an object, it's not a point on which you can meditate. It's vibhu. It's all expansive, it's all pervading. That is Vibhu Tattva. Vibhum. Dhyatva dheyam so samvedyam. How do I dhyatva dheyam? That dhyana you are doing is still talking about a dhyana. But this dhyana is vijnanatmaka, vicharatmaka. What is that? So samvedyam. Only you can. It's ineffable. You cannot describe it in words. So only you can realize it. You are doing meditation. What way you meditating on? Paramashiva? What did it look like? No, this is not meant for that sort of a conversation. There's no scope for that. Therefore, he's saying, Nirdheyam paramam vibhum dhyatva dheyam so samvedyam. Only meant for you. No one else can reach there. So samvedyam dhyanam tacha vidur buddha. If you're able to elevate your consciousness to that ultimate point, that is what is dhyana. Who does they say that? The one who know what is dhyana, they describe it thus. Then finally, dharana. Dhyana, dharana, samadhi. Dharana paramatmatvam dharyate yena sarvada. Dharana is establishing your meditative state, at a particular point, one pointedness when you achieve, in a very layman's language. He's saying, look, that one pointedness is this, at that higher level of establishing your consciousness, paramatmatvam, not as a jiva anymore, that paramatma tattva, when you are able to dharyate yena sarvada, because of which, with the help of which you can have that dharana paramatatvam dharyate yena sarvada dharana sa vinirdishta. That is what is dharana, bhavapasa nivarini. But you might say bhavapasa nikantanaha pratyahara, you said. Again you are saying bhavapasa nivarini again and again. Once I have broken the chains, what is there to be broken again? That's the beauty of it. You might presume you have removed all past ignorances, the veil of ignorance, it comes back, it reappears. So it's dealing with different levels of obstructions. So maybe the grosser obstructions you remove with the normal stula sadhanas, then shukshma sadhanas. We are dealing with the subtler the beast, the more dangerous it is. Any problem which is very subtle is very difficult to resolve. Therefore, is a higher level of obstruction that you are removing. And then ultimately what happens? Swaparasteshu bhuteshu jagatyasmin samanadhi shivoham advitiyoham samadhi saparah smritah. Do you know what is samadhi? That Parama Shiva Tattva is nothing called Shivoham. I am Shiva and this is Sansara. There is no Sansara. It is only Parama Shiva Tattva. Everything is Shiva. So therefore he's saying Swa parastheshu bhuteshu. You, me, and this. I'm a man, this is a woman, this is her daughter, this is my daughter, this is my wife, that is his wife, all this. The duality, existence, tempered, limited, restricted by dualities. Limitedness, restrictedness. That is what defines the way we think. Therefore, he's saying, Swaparasteshu bhuteshu jagati asmin samanadhi. You have that samabhava pannata. Everything is same. Why? Now you're being able to see the adhisthana, the foundation of the sansara, which is Paramashiva Tattva. Therefore, you are becoming samanadhi. Then he's saying, Shivoham advitiyoham. Then you are saying, Shivoham, Shivoham. I'm not different from Shiva. I don't even exist. It's only Shiva that exists. Samadhi sapar, that is ultimate samadhi. Samadhi is not about a state of very intricate concentration of the mind where you can't hear any sound and you're there for 20 months. No. Are you having this samabhava pannata? Then only that is samadhi. Therefore, he's saying, iti Sriman Mrityuja Mrityujit Bhattaraka Nirupita Nitya. This particular Mrityujit Bhattaraka, by this text, whatever is mentioned, Dharanadhivi api Paratattva Samavesha eva bhavati natu Mita Siddhihi. So, if you do this kind of pranayam and all that, not Mita Siddhi. Mita Siddhi is for the external sadhanas. If you are able to make an entry into the subtle aspects of it and you reconnect yourself with the ultimate goal for which we are doing sadhanas, then of course you will have Paramatatva Siddhi. So I'll stop here. We'll continue our discussion tomorrow when we meet again. So let's any questions you can put in the group and I'll come back. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva